Hello, 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 and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son get together and talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things that we enjoy. Today, I'm leaning into something that I really enjoy, but Zach does not, so you only get the father, Jim. But thank you for being here. It's great to have you with me as I record an episode talking about zombie apocalypse literature. Come on, if you are one of our subscribers, you already know this is something I definitely enjoy, have read a lot of, and I'm going to have fun talking about today. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for taking time to enjoy this, one of our longer form episodes, which won't actually be as long as normal. I notice that when I do these by myself, sometimes they do come in a little shorter. Must mean my son is the windbag. Okay, no, we can both talk on and on. I just don't have quite as much to bring to you today. Variety, the spice of life. However, I am drinking something, because that's important to us when we podcast. Today, something simple. It's a hot summer day, so I've got a nice rosé here from Pomeroy Cellars, small boutique winery here in South Central Washington State. And it's floral, it's tasty, and there you go, just a rosé. Nice color. There's not as much in there as there should be. It has to be a short episode now. All right, a few tiny notes for you here today. Thank you to all of you who continue to subscribe on YouTube. The numbers keep climbing. We're just about to hit 400, so when you watch this episode, you'll probably find over 400 subscribers there. I hope you're one of them. And again, if you enjoy this, like down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we do hope that you join us. The other thing is, just recently now, we found TikTok. Okay, that's not true. Zach has been playing around with TikTok for a long time, but he's more the just troll type of person. He doesn't put content there, but Fantasy for the Ages now does. It's basically repeating a lot of the content we put in YouTube Shorts. So whichever platform you prefer, you're going to find our short little minute long or less episodes now. Just these little blasts that we put out there, having fun, doing something quirky. It's usually just me, sometimes me in various characters. But find us on TikTok, Fantasy for the Ages. All right, let's get to it. What am I here talking about today? I'm bringing to you, in a spoiler light format, the best characters from zombie apocalypse literature. Now, that is a misnomer because obviously I haven't been able to read every piece of zombie apocalypse literature that's out there. I keep reading, I keep moving through great content. I'm doing something right now by John O'Brien, a New World series. I can't pick anybody from this series as one of my favorite yet, but I'm only halfway through the 10-book series. Maybe one will still rise to the top. There is one in the running, but I don't think one's going to make it. I am picky. What is it that really tips someone over the top to become one of my favorite characters? And I'll explain that as I go through some with you today. But there's a lot of zombie apocalypse literature out there that I just haven't got to yet. And there's some that I won't. Not all zombie apocalypse literature is to the same level. I've spoken to that in a different, fairly recent episode about zombie apocalypse literature. There's a lot of diversity in it, a lot of different kinds of great ZA lit. But there's also some bottom dwellers. Not everything is worth reading. There might be amazing characters in some of the ZA books. I'll never know. But I have, for you today, cultivated a list of some amazing characters that I want to bring to you. Now, I said spoiler light. I'm not going to totally ruin the plots of any of the books that these come from, but it's impossible not to spoil a little in sharing why these characters are so awesome. So I'll be gentle. I won't go too deep, but there are very minor spoilers ahead. I think you'll be okay. So, first up, and fair warning, I've got for you Let's see, 4, 8, 10. I've got a top 10 list here, people. I've got 10 different characters that I'm bringing to you here now. The first one up, number 10, so I'm working from the bottom. These are in order of awesomeness, is Master Sergeant Reed Beckham from the Extinction cycle and its follow-up series, which the name blanks right now. Extinction Dark Days, I think. These are all written by Nicholas Sansbury Smith. I've spoken about this author before on the podcast. I've read a number of his series. I follow this author on Twitter and on his website. He sends me emails because I subscribe to his newsletter. Really engaging reads. The Extinction cycle is not your typical zombie apocalypse novel because the creatures aren't true zombies, and maybe we should just be clear about that. Not all zombies in zombie apocalypse literature are the traditional zombies, but they will involve people who have transformed, have lost control, are no longer who they were. Sometimes they died and came back. Other times they just have mutated. It might be genetic. It might be just virally driven, but they are no longer who they were. That makes it appropriate for zombie apocalypse. The Extinction cycle is like next level on that. We've got some major mutations going on. Master Sergeant Reed Beckham is the head of one of these special ops units that first encounters the changes that are happening in this series because it is virally generated. I won't give you all the deal on it, but he happens to be on ground zero when this first breaks out in a big way. Its roots go farther back. Again, you got to read the story to understand that. But when it really starts to go out of control and then transform the whole world, he and his team, Delta Team, if memory is correct, is right there on the site. And this is not easy stuff to get through. Master Sergeant Reed Beckham is extremely capable. He lives by the leave no man behind principle, and he is willing to sacrifice for his men. So he's that archetype of the lead operator on a special ops unit who's extremely smart, very capable, willing to put himself on the line for his troops, for his people, and has no quit in him. Sometimes these kind of characters don't make it through their books. You'll have to read the Extinction Cycle books to find out if that's true. I will tell you, for sure, he and everyone on his team is scathed. You know, doesn't come through unscathed. Definitely scathed. But he demonstrates just such a sense of integrity and honor and commitment, dedication. He's the kind of guy you'd want on your side. So that's number 10, Master Sergeant Reed Beckham. Number 9 is not a single person. This is the only one where I'm pulling out a group, and that's Alpha Team from the Arisen series by Glenn James and Michael Stephen Fuchs. This 14-book series, I believe it's 14 books, but there's also a couple of additional novellas that go along with it. It's just an adrenaline rush from start to end, and I've got another episode talking about some of my favorite zombie apocalypse books this series features in it. But Alpha Team is, again, like in the previous book, a collection of special operators, Delta Team, that goes into the thick of it again and again, trying to accomplish impossible objectives in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. And a zombie apocalypse, unlike what you see in many books, because it's one everywhere except one place in the world. And they are trying to accomplish various goals in order to finally stop the apocalypse before the last bastion of humanity falls. So the stakes could not be higher. An Alpha Team made of an elite collection of unique operators is fantastic to follow through their escapades. Again, scathed. There's a little bit of realism here. You don't just fly through with magic plot armor and nothing ever happens to you. These guys take a beating, but they have been around before. They know how to take a licking and keep on ticking. And they can, because of the skills they have as a team, manage to overcome again and again. And one of the things that you most enjoy about Alpha Team is they never let the down stuff get to them too much. The banter stays real. The touch of levity in the difficult situations is part of what keeps them going, and you feel that love for each other. Brothers in arms, the relationships are powerful. So I love me some Alpha Team. These guys are great. Number 8 in this list, Lee Hardin from the Remaining series by DJ Molay. Lee Hardin is another one of these special operators, but he's part of a unique force, 50 different operators who are recruited into a again, you can check another episode where I talk about The Remaining as a series, but they've been recruited to be a last chance to bring back civilization if everything goes kaput. So he is a man of many skills. He's trained to be able to come out of a bunker, detect the circumstances, and act to help mankind come back from the brink. But he's also, again, a man very committed to a mission, deep integrity, believes in our nation and the principles behind it. And this sees him through even when the people who should be supporting him turn on him. His interior code, his personal mission statement will not let him deviate from doing what he truly believes is right. And he's got the skills, the capability to pull such things off. He's such an amazing character through the Remaining series that DJ Molay wrote a second series called the Lee Hardin series, with more books continuing his story, and it's really a direct continuation. 6 more books following the 6 books of the Remaining. So you really got 12 books. It tells one massive story. At the end of it, the story is concluded, though there's opportunity for more stories to be told. Lee Hardin, scathed again. These operators, it's not that they don't get hurt, they just don't stop. He is more scathed than many that I know of, and yet he's still powering on. Lee Hardin, wow. Hey, number 7. This one is probably familiar to many of you, but Rick Grimes, the former police officer, wakes up out of a coma in The Walking Dead. While he's been out due to a gunshot in the line of duty, the world went to pot because the zombies took over. And he wakes up and has to try to piece together what's happened, survive the zombies himself, find other people, including his own family, and try to be part of bringing people back to the best of humanity rather than falling to the worst, even while having to navigate the moral challenges of sometimes needing to be the worst of humanity for the sake of others. He's a very conflicted character. Once again, scathed. If you've read these or watched the TV series, you're well aware he takes some lumps. But Rick Grimes, again, someone who will not quit and is willing to go to the nth degree for what he believes in. These are the kind of people you rally around. And honestly, in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, you need such people. Number 6. This is a character now from a lesser known series. The person is named Jesse, and it's from the Zombie Road series by David A. Simpson. This is an ongoing series still. I believe it's book 9 that has just recently come out. I thought book 8 was going to be the end of the series, according to the way the author did it, but apparently the fans were in uproar, and he said, okay, I'll write a little more. It's based initially around, okay, the zombie apocalypse happens, and this group of truckers, actual big rig truckers, a bunch of friends who are all ex-military, decide to use their trucks as instruments and weapons to fight off the zombies. Now they make a whole bunch of other decisions, but the rallying people to their cause and their vehicles are the help for it. Jesse is the son of probably the primary protagonist of the story. Jesse's just a teenage boy when the apocalypse happens. And he and some friends, off on their own at the time, get stuck in a very unfortunate situation right in the beginning. And in order to survive, Jesse ends up taking a grievous facial wound. Now, it's something he recovers from, but he's left horribly scarred. He's not pretty to look at the rest of the series. And yet, that's just the start of what happens to Jesse and why he becomes an amazing character. This appearance of his leaves him not so socially attuned. Hanging out with people is hard because everybody flinches when they look at him. So he volunteers to help out in ways where he's off on his own. He's going and doing things. And he ends up helping a lot of people. And he becomes known as the Night Angel because he drives up in his Trans Am or Camaro, I think it's Camaro, souped up, and helps people in tough situations, helps them find where his dad and his people are kind of rebuilding civilization, also helps connect other pockets of civilization that are fighting off the zombies and trying to come back from the brink. And the legends rise about the Night Angel. And then there's some things, there's a twist in the story that causes him to be more than just the average teenage and then 20-year-old boy. But I don't want to reveal that. You got to read the story. But it's part of what makes Jesse an amazing character to follow. So even though his dad was the primary protagonist, in a lot of ways the story starts to switch to Jesse. And he's one of my faves. I love it when the author does something unique with a character in the midst of a zombie apocalypse tale. Jesse is the first one that really fits the bill. I mean, the other ones were just regular guys who were doing tough stuff and standing up. Jesse's not regular. There's something very different about this one. Speaking of very different, brings me to number 5, Sky Dennison from John L. Campbell's Omega Days series. Sky Dennison is just a teenage girl. She might be 20. She's a college student when the apocalypse breaks out. And partly by being a good runner and partly by luck, manages to avoid dying right at the beginning, just like so many characters do. The majority of humanity succumb to the zombie apocalypse. Those few who manage to survive end up grouping together with others who survived. And she becomes one of the core characters in the key group that we're following. A problem, though, is along the way, Sky gets infected by a zombie. She doesn't turn zombie, though. Something else happens, which is amazing and a great plot twist, and I can't tell you more because it would ruin a key part of the story. I flirted with spoiler light just there. But Sky Dennison goes on to be something very special in this story and is perhaps the most engaging character in the entire tale. What she rises up to through her personal journey is bigger than what happens to her. There's a character arc for this person that's quite valuable to watch, to read, to enjoy. So Sky Dennison takes home the number 5 slot. And I do recommend Omega Days by John L. Campbell. This is a series that is done now. I believe there were 6 books, might be 7. It's one I might reread someday because it's great. And I had to wait as the books were coming out. I might enjoy just plowing all the way through this sucker now. All right, I've got 4 left, and I got to be honest with you, the next 3 are all from the same series. They're all from the Zombie Fallout series by Mark Tufo. You have heard me, if you're a subscriber or a casual watcher, or just follow us on Twitter, I have raved about the Zombie Fallout series. It's still ongoing. There's 21 books out there now. might be 22 actually, and he's still gonna write more. I interviewed Mark Tufo on this channel. There's an episode where you can find that. He's a cool guy, but he has so many great characters in the story. I picked three, my three favorite. And we start out at number 4 with Trip. Trip is unique. There's something very special about Trip. One of the things special about him is he is a pothead. Oh my goodness, he and Mary Jane and various other narcotics are on great terms. Trip is, picture this stoners, totally dude, man, nothing's ever harshing my burn. And I can't talk this stuff. I've never smoked anything like that in my life. I've never done drugs. I don't do drugs beyond, okay, alcohol. Wow. Trip is so fun. And yet, in the midst of his cloudiness, he has a special lucidity about him. This dude knows things. Maybe it's from the LSD. Trip is not an accidental name. And he may have traveled. I want you to experience Trip for yourself. When you do, when you read the Zombie Fallout series and you meet him, pay attention to this guy. Don't just enjoy his comic relief, which he does bring, but pay attention to the nuance, the things he says, the things he drops. There's something special about this guy, and it makes for a great character in the Zombie Fallout series. Number 3 is BT. Now, BT is a hulk of a man. He's the best friend of the main protagonist of the Zombie Fallout series. And he's one of the first people that the core group we're following stumbles along into in their journey trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. BT is a huge black man who looks like he could rip your head off, but he's really a teddy bear, a stuffy. He's adorable, unless you cross him, because he will kill you and mess you up and kill you and multiple times. He will not let anyone hurt his friends. And if you somehow manage to, you dead man or woman. He's not partial. One of the things I enjoy about BT is not just that he's such a physical specimen, but he also has incredible wit and humor. And the banter that he takes up with the other characters, especially our main protagonist, is delightful and one of the best parts of this entire Zombie Fallout series. BT is one of the characters that Mark Tufo uses in multiple series as well. And it's not the same BT, and yet it is. Basically, think of Mark Tufo creating parallel worlds with different stories, but the same characters. But now, in this world, this is how this character plays out. So BT's wit and humor and size is all true throughout all of them, but he's not quite the same person each time. In all of them, BT is delightful. So I think you'll enjoy BT when you read this. Number 2, I mean, you shouldn't have had to think too hard about this. It's the main protagonist from the Zombie Fallout series, Mike Talbot. Mike Talbot is just a dad. He's retired military, so he does have some skills, but he's not like some special operator. He's just a retired Marine. Now, forgive me if you're, a retired Marine and you're like, dude, there is no just a retired Marine. Mike Talbot personifies that. He has just been living his best life as a father, as a husband now, but the skills he had as a Marine are still there, and he brings them out to protect his family, to fight on through all the challenges they face, to defend others as his group grows. But he has no ego. He's a very self-deprecating man. He also is willing to do whatever it takes to protect those he loves, including sacrificing himself. He will not hesitate to do that. You see examples of that through the series. I talked about how people are scathed earlier in this episode. And, Jessie scathed a facial scar. Sky Dennison scathed when she is impacted by uh, a zombie, an infected. Trip scathed by all the drugs he's done. But actually, part of the funny thing of him is how is he still alive? Honestly, BT, yeah, nothing gets him. Not true. He takes his little dings, but it's like he's almost invincible. Mike Talbot, he is scathed in a particular way that becomes an integral part of this story that I cannot reveal to you because it would be a major spoiler. But trust me, this man is scathed. You may not see it, but the hurt is real. And yet, wonderful. In a dark sort of way. So, Mike Talbot, I love his humor. I love his persistence, his willingness to never quit, his true commitment and dedication to protect those who need protecting, especially his family. He's a great character. Mark Tufo has written Mike Talbot just amazingly. Which brings me to my number one. And my number one is a step above everyone else I've talked about. And that's Jilly Bean from the Undead World by Peter Meredith, as well as the follow-up series Generation Z. Wow. Okay, this is another standard zombie apocalypse tale. It's many books long, and it focuses on a guy named Neil and the people he encounters trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. Neil is the typical pencil pusher who should be dead, but he's got some luck, and he finds the right people, and he's got a endearing charm that people put up with him and help him, and he survives. And one of the people that he and his group encounter along the way is this little girl, 6 years old, Jilly Bean. She's all alone. Parents are dead. She's been surviving on her own for months by the time they encounter her. How does a 6-year-old manage? How does this happen? Well, Jilly Bean has a genius IQ. She's an absolute brainiac. And she's been reading before the zombie apocalypse, reading way above her age level. And what do you do when there's nothing else to do because the zombies have come? You keep reading. And she has made the best of the resources around her to accumulate this vast amount of knowledge and have the comprehension and understanding to know what to do with it. Now, that's like having a Swiss Army knife built specifically for the zombie apocalypse. So we have this character who comes in the series who has a stuffed animal and is just a little girl, and yet has knowledge and ideas that help the entire group to go next level in overcoming challenges, in surviving in the midst of a disastrous experience. Jilly Bean, however, is not just this little girl who managed to survive on her own and is really smart. She is screwed up. Her mom died in the house that she was basically stuck in for months. How do you survive? When you're alone, you know no other living person, your best friend is a stuffed animal, and this stuffed animal is alive. Basically, Jilly Bean has developed some mental coping mechanisms that in modern society would be diagnosed as definitely mentally unwell. And Neil and his people, they fairly quickly come to realize that she is traumatized. She has some real, serious issues. And yet, they need her. So there's this tension as the story continues. Do we protect her, keep her away from harm and challenges, and just try to help her heal like a 6-year-old girl? Or do we use her? Do we tap into that knowledge? Do we risk her in compromising situations because she's the only one who has the know-how to get it done. It's definitely adds a huge element of challenge to the series. And obviously, since I'm telling you there's a follow-up series that features her, spoiler, Jilly Bean will make it through the first series. Maybe not the second. Uh, Definitely an amazing character. In some ways, charming and delightful. In some ways, heart-wrenching. In other ways, just amazing. And you cannot help but love Jilly Bean. And at the same time, be extremely disturbed and worried about Jilly Bean. Worried about her and worried for her. It's kind of a blend. But of all the characters I've come across in zombie apocalypse literature, she's my favorite. She's quite compelling. And I think you would find her that way too. She alone is reason enough to look up the Undead World series by Peter Meredith. All right, that's my top 10. Great characters from the zombie apocalypse literature out there that I have encountered. I hope you will check some of these out and see why I value these characters so much. If you do, let me know. Love to hear that you took advantage of some of these tips and ran with it and found some goodness. If you are a zombie apocalypse fan and you've read some things I haven't, and you have some characters that you think should have been on this list, let me know. I love adding new things to my TBR, and when you interact with Zach and I, that's how our book reading grows. Give us guidance, tell us what we should discover. So send those our way. Of course, you can drop such in the comments down below this particular episode, or use those other avenues that show up in the show notes, like the invitation to join our Discord server and come hang out with about 100 of us right now, talking about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy stuff all the time, including books we're reading and that we recommend. Our other social media things are there, Twitter, Mastodon, Facebook, Instagram. I don't have our TikTok link on there yet, but maybe I'll remember and put it on. We would love to have you interact with us any way that works for you. And if you enjoy this and the other things you find on our show, you might want to interact next level, become a Patreon supporter. And for as little as $1 a month, get some extra benefits that we give to our supporters. All right, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for hanging out with me and enjoying hearing about characters from the zombie apocalypse. Hopefully, you don't need to become one of those characters and we can avoid that zombie apocalypse a little bit longer. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. If I can get it to end.